Thank you everybody for joining in. I see we have somewhere around 20 people right now, 24 people right now. You have your first poll up on your screen, which just will ask you about what your role specifically is. So you can do that. And while you do that, let's jump into a quick introduction about who are your panelists today. MG, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start off with it. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time. My name is Manohar Goli, and I am the co-founder and CTO here at Trundl. Hoping to kind of help you guys, whoever are using Atlassian. We are in proud enterprise Atlassian partners, and also a very proud marketplace partners. And I'm currently based out in Atlanta, and I'm looking forward to kind of have this conversation with you all. Over to you, Sajit.
Thank you. Yes, almost everything except my official title is Director of Products and Agile Practices. Very, very heavy title for somebody, people who know me. It's a very heavy title for me. It's a cross that I bear. I just work with really smart people and they make amazing products and makes me look good. And that's why we are here today. Our team has created an amazing product and we are here to demo it. We are here to talk more about it. I'm based out of Delhi, Gurgaon. I'm also the Atlassian community leader representing both the community and Trundle today. So yeah, excited about today's session. Uh, Garima, continue doing the polls while we go on. So we'll go ahead with the session. This is the agenda for today. We are going to talk about why Waterfall for Jira. Why did we feel the need to build an app such as this? And what's the background around it, right? And from our experience of consulting, working as a marketplace partner, as a training partner, as a solution partner, where we found that there was a need for an app such as this. And then we're going to talk about a specific use case, and we're going to jump into Jira and show you some of the features. And then we are going to do a little demo and then open it up for Q&A. Before we actually jump into the first slide, uh, yeah, I think my poll keeps coming on my main screen, so I'll just move it here. Yeah, all right, let's just jump right in. MG, any thoughts before we begin?
No, absolutely. Again, as I mentioned, as an enterprise partner, being in this space for over close to 9+ years now, we have seen how the methodology has shifted from one extreme to another extreme. And still, there are a bunch of teams in every company, in every team, there are people who are still, you know, really kind of, longing for some of these capabilities being added to the space. I think, that's a kind of entry barrier. It's for a lot of people not being able to use some great tools, not able to adopt a methodology or see the benefits of either of the other
Hmm?
methodologies. So I think that is the whole purpose, that we are trying to see how we can address that gap, or that capability gap that we are missing out on a great tool that we love.
Awesome. Yeah. Perfect. With that, why are we talking about Waterfall? Being somebody in the agile space, we've got agilists in the team. We're working on scaled agile transformation in today's world. We're talking about uh, expanding the projects to include portfolios, all those levels. But why are we still talking about Waterfall? Because at the end of the day, a project management methodology is just that. It's a way of working, and there is no generic one size fits all, right? And what we've seen in our solution partner experience is that a lot of teams strive to be agile, but still work in a hybrid kind of a model where they continuously try to, uh, you know, improve their processes, learn from their mistakes. But there are aspects from waterfall methodology which still creep in. And I don't know if or ever there will be a place where we will say, hey, there is no tracking of the budget anymore. Until that day comes, until there is an infinity amount of budget, I think there's some aspects of waterfall are always going to exist, and some aspects of the traditional model where we had little more planning and a little more linear and familiar structure when it came to the project management, it still exists. And that's what we saw in a lot of projects that we were working as well. We were seeing We were seeing some aspects creeping into teams which are fairly agile, who are working in either Scrum or Kanban, but still had to, for the sake of management or for the sake of their sponsor or for the sake of their customers, actually, at times, had to report on where they were in terms of planned versus actual in terms of a budget, or what their planned completion date was, for example, for a specific feature or a specific task, and how were they tracking it. And there was always conflict between the teams and the management on how and what they were trying to do, and how there could be a simpler way of doing this. The tool Jira, as MG mentioned, we all love and use that tool, but there are some aspects where it it promotes agility, but probably it's still a pipe dream for a lot of teams, right? So while the solution that we built is still called Waterfall for Jira, it's not for only Waterfall teams. Pure agile teams, as you'll see in the demo, pure agile teams, Waterfall teams, Kanban, Scrum, all these teams can still leverage, and because there is no one size fits all. That's basically what we want to talk about. And this is what our app tries to do. Our app tries to bring the old school methodology to meet agile, and offer a structured approach to managing projects while still giving you the flexibility to optimize project management in a way where you can centralize your knowledge hub, uh, have a very simple user interface. So there are a lot of apps on the marketplace that you might have used or would be using right now, which make some things very complex. So if you're trying to just go from A to B, you have to go to A to, you have to go backwards and like build the entire structure up and just get to where you are at the end. So we're trying to remove that a little bit, I would say. And at the end, we've got some features in there which makes using the app a little more fun and making the using the app a little more for everybody, right? Before we move on, MG, what has your experience been for like using Waterfall, or have you always been a true agilist?
I mean, even today, right? Being able to run projects across different teams. You talk about, non-product development teams, in particular, non-software teams, not being able to bring them over to a common tooling makes the overall reporting so hard, right? You talk about when in the age of Atlassian is saying Jira for all, and then even just broke the barriers and said there's no work management, there's no Jira, there's one single Jira, that can cater to every team that kind of wants to track their work, right? So it's very difficult for me to convince some of those teams to kind of even think about being able to run a project in 2 week sprint. You talk about standing up a data center or migrating a large footprint of data center over to cloud, or talking about a marketing team running their campaigns, or being able to have facilities team bring about a change that could impact, like, 10,000 employees. These things cannot be really done in the way product teams or the software development teams want to. That kind of still makes me feel like, okay, why do they need to go for another tool when we know that Jira can actually address them? It's just that the positioning, the posture of it would really kind of not even let them think about it as a possibility, right? So those questions are always there. We have those conversations with those teams, try and kind of convince them how and what benefits they can bring when they kind of come to a tool, agilist tool, in a true sense, right? Jira has been like that, agilist wear it as a badge, that is, as a way to do it, right? So those are some of the experiences that we always think, okay, I wish there was something that was more simpler in here. And even to that matter, cross department or multi department efforts that would require the departments to report on the budgets, the cost centers, the budgets being drawn from, or the spend happening from multi department budgets. It's very
Mhm.
hard to say, because at the end of the day, dollar value is represented by the efforts that are going into a project, or how you are consuming the dollars. At the end of the day, in real world, You got to say that, okay, here is the X amount of dollars or rupees that are needs to be consumed in a project combined effort. And then how it's going to translate it is, yes, so many people
Yeah.
are working for so many hours, and you equate it to X amount of things with so many tools being added into it. So it's going to be very hard to represent that in, some of the existing tools, particularly, in Jira alone. So it's a great space for us to play, and I'm very excited to have people start looking at it from that perspective.
Awesome. And that's what the poll says as well. We did a quick poll, and somewhere around 50% of people say that we are working in a hybrid
Hybrid,
methodology.
yeah,
30,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
30% say agile, and 20%, nearly 20% say 100% waterfall. So
Absolutely.
let's look at the use case that we are going to talk about today, right? So we're looking at a Jira project where let me just move this again. Yeah, so we are looking at a Jira project for a mobile development team who works in a hybrid methodology, uses Kanban specifically as a fixed project budget. Management wants regular updates on cost, schedule, progress. They've got a standard Jira subscription, and they've got some add-ons from the marketplace, which I would say somewhere around 70 to 80% of, if 70 is not a higher number, so around 60 to 70% of companies work in this generic space, right? Like they've got standard subscription and they've got add-ons from the marketplace for specific use cases, and this is what the use, or uh, how many requirements they have from their management to tell, and it's a fairly experienced team if you look at it. So when we talk about a scenario like this, before we actually go to the demo and we show how this works, we are going to quickly go through, spend 5 or 10 minutes max, and talk about what the app features are. So how do you report across projects? Mano, let me ask you, how do you right now report across projects?
I mean, the only way I could probably think about is, create a roadmap, that can roll up, or probably do it, but still, I cannot report on the costing associated with it. I have to kind of, then take it over to an, Microsoft projects, or probably, do it on an Excel, or, pump this data into maybe a BI tool, and then, do a true ups of all of those things. But traditionally, within Jira, I could think about advanced roadmap, or probably, use some PPM add-on on
Hmm.
top of it to be able to do the rollout. We have
Hmm.
our own favorites here. I want to call out, don't want to call out the add-ons, but everybody has their favorites. I can see that, there were few PMs, that we saw the poll, there are PMs in here, so
Sure.
everybody loves to have it. But in a way, you should, as long as you have a project in Jira, and you have an advanced roadmap capability, which is again a premium capability, or you buy another add-on, right? So that's one way of doing it. That has been traditional way of doing it. But again, it doesn't give me all of those in different phases, or the costing, the efforts are not rolled up in a true
Sure.
sense.
Yeah, that's exactly what the problem area when we sat down on one of the first items that we were building on the app was that it's easy to report inside a project, because inside a project there's plenty of data that Jira lets you create, and you can play around with that data, and you can have velocity, burn down, tons of things that you can do at. But when it comes to reporting aspects across projects, like for example, if I have to say, hey, where is your budget compared to the other two projects that you're working on as a project manager, or what phase is your project in, right? Are you like, is your project at risk? As of now, there are no. The problem with that is because Jira gives you fields or custom fields at an issue level and not at a project level. And that's why we created this specific feature, which is called project fields, which lets you create project level fields, not issue level fields. So the project level fields helps you, as you can see in the screenshot, you can have budgets, project phase, project manager name, project status, generic fields that you would probably need for reporting a status on your project. And the second screenshot actually shows you a Jira dashboard report, which comes from a gadget that we have developed, which can pull data across multiple projects. And you can just do a tabular report of all the data. Let's say, for example, show me projects which are greater than budget for 5,000 USD. And I just want to look at whether they are on track, off track, who's the project manager in that sense. Now, there are some apps in the marketplace which do this. Natively, Jira cannot, but some apps in the marketplace do this. But we are proud to have this one feature, which is a difference maker in here, which is the live currency conversion. As you can see in the screenshot, the budget actually varies between USD, Japanese yen, euro, and any other currency that you can have. When we go into demo, we'll show it to you how you can report across currencies in the same Jira instance. And that currency conversion is not a static conversion, it's a dynamic live currency conversion on which you can pull up reports in your native Jira. So project level fields is one of the first features that we've given out in the app called Waterfall for Jira. Let's move on. How do you simplify cost tracking? So cost is a big aspect for a lot of projects, right? Every project success or failure criteria depends on whether it was under budget or whether it was over budget. So when it comes to tracking costs, how do you track costs? You can export the Jira data into Excel and use your cost rates, or you can have your methodologies. You can use some really expensive add-ons from the marketplace as well. We would not say there aren't. There are some really good and really expensive add-ons in the marketplace which let you play around with cost tracking as well. But what we wanted to do was to simplify cost tracking. So what we built was a simple cost tracker. Lets you pull all the Jira data in terms of roles that you have in your project. So let's say, for example, you've got your 4 roles in this specific example. You've pulled all the time logs for those 4 roles. We've given the ability to have a filter. Let's say, for example, you only want to pull data for 1 quarter. You can pull that. If you want to streamline it further using JQL, you can do that. And then define rates for those roles. When we go into the demo, we'll show you how this takes it to the next step and gives you a live picture of what your cost, at least the resource cost, is looking like for that project. Now, there are aspects that we are working on right now, which will be able to take non-resource cost into the picture as well, but that is something which is in development right now. But this feature lets you have your resource cost right at the click of a button and have a visual representation what your project cost to date looks like.
Yeah,
MG, what do you think? What do you think could be some of the areas where people could be benefited from something like this?
oh, absolutely. See, this is what I've been talking about, right? So, an enterprise partner like us, we do a lot of support projects. We do, service projects to the customers where everything is broken down by the role. And, because for me, at the end of the day, customer success is a paramount and the customer experience is paramount, but still I need to make dollars to make my team happy. I need to smile, right? So I need to kind of keep a track of how we are trending towards it, because it's very easy for a developer or a tester or an admin to go overboard in making the customer feel like, oh, this can be done, that can be done. It's very easy, as a project progresses, right? And the project manager to continue to be able to kind of, keep the project on track with all of these variables happening around on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, having a tool that could tell them, hey, this is our project budget. Here is how we are trending. We gotta probably find a way to kind of make sure that we are on track. Because at the end of the day, you gotta make profits to be able to kind of, run any team, in a way, they need to continue to sustain, right? Sustainability is very key, right? So definitely, I think that's an area that I've been talking about. How to have that real world entity that kind of controls everything within a company or within a department or inter-department or inter-team project scenarios. So that's great capability that I would love to kind of have any day.
Sure, awesome.
Yeah.
We've got one question in the chat
Mhm.
from Ashu, which says, how is time tracked for the system to map the cost per hour? Is the hour rate blended or can it be at a resource level? So Ashu, as of now, what we've given the ability is to, when we go into the demo, we'll show this, that you can just click on this edit button and define the hour rate for a specific role. The reason we created role instead of giving the ability here in the app itself is your role section or the people section in your Jira project is where you can define which person is in which group, right? Like your
Yes.
developer, your senior developer. You can create as many
Yeah.
roles as you want in the project, and then in there define the people who fit in that specific role. And your
Yeah.
role will have a rate. And
Correct. So
we understand that, yeah,
that's where
go
you
ahead.
can add the blended as well. Like you can create
Mhm.
a role called as, blended role and then have a rate, and then whoever is working in that blended role can all be added to the blended role. So that way, it's you have that flexibility to define that as well. But we would love to kind of explore if there is an one specific option, that can be also done in that way. But yes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. When we go into a demo, we'll have more conversation. And Ashu, I saw your comment, which is in one project there might be two resources with different rates, definitely. So we'll see this in action when we go into the demo. We have another Q&A from Vivek, which says, does the report change based on the time tracking for an older ticket if a resource updates the time? How is that going to impact the real-time report? So if somebody goes back and let's say delete some of the work log. Let's say, for example, if you see developers have logged 163 hours here and they delete 20 hours, one person deletes their hours, it'll the data will always be real time. It will pull 143 as the correct number when the next time you export it. That's why we are not exporting this out of Jira. That's one of the problems that a customer that we were working with had. They would export their Jira data and put it into Excel, put hours into it, and find the cost for a quarter for their resource. And somebody in the backend would change their Jira data. And they are just believing that that's the cost, but at the end of the project, the data has already changed. Right. So that's why this ability to stay inside Jira and look at it is what we added. As I mentioned, this is only resource, the first level. We are building towards a non-resource cost tracking inside the project as well. So basically, your expense management as a feature will be something that will come in this specific section of the app in future. In the interest of time, I'll just move on so that we'll take more questions in the backend as well. Uh, a very key aspect of traditional waterfall projects is talking about earned value management, schedule variance, cost variance. As of now, out of box, Jira does not offer these matrices, but we have tried our hand at building something that does it for you. So when you go into the app, our app actually able to give you a visibility around what your actual cost is looking like using cost tracker, then using the numbers that you have defined on the basis of what is your issue completion calculation, whether it's on the basis of your status or is it on the basis of due date. It can actually tell you whether you are on track for your project, whether you are under cost, whether your schedule variance, what is your CPI, what is your SPI. Very standard waterfall methodologies. I understand not a lot of users would be for this feature, but since working with some people who desperately wanted this and asked us to build this custom development for them, I know there are teams like that who would definitely benefit from this because waterfall being one of the key terms that we wanted to include. So that's why this is one feature that we definitely wanted to build. And again, there are some aspects in terms of future development that we are also planning on here. So we are very excited on what's more to come in. What can you see in earned value management? And any comments on earned value management, Manohar?
Not really. I think you covered that aspect. Going back to the same fundamental, right? So you need to kind of make sure in the real world that's what matters to any PM or any management team or anybody who's working on a project. So you got to probably understand how it's all translating in terms of the value that's getting generated in terms of the dollar value or in terms of the features being developed to the cost being spent on them. You got to probably see it. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Let's move to the most ambitious aspect or the most ambitious feature that we tried to build into this project. Uh, how do you visualize progress? Now, there are at least 15 apps or at least 12 apps on the marketplace which helps you visualize progress. All of them have their own specific X factor, right? For example, they'll let you add add queries on top of it. They'll let you create issues inside them and then sync. There are a lot of ways in which you can do that. What we wanted to build was a feature which inside the same app, again, as you would have seen from the theme of why Waterfall for Jira, we wanted to have one app for all things project management, right? And that's why visualizing data or having a roadmap feature or having a Gantt feature was a very critical aspect. And that's why we created the Gantt feature. When we go into the demo, we'll showcase how the Gantt feature of Waterfall for Jira lets you put your project phases on top, and then under there you can plan your issues from your epics to your issues of any type, even your subtasks. You can also create issues directly in the plan, because a lot of projects that I specifically worked with used to create their data or their plan in their MPP or their Excel and then import all that data into Jira. This reduces the overhead for that team to do that. They can open the Gantt, directly plan their entire project plan here, and then click on this nifty little sync button, and that will push information into Jira. How we do that is we'll go back into the demo and we'll show it to you in a later in a minute as well. But visualizing progress, I would say, is definitely something that from a management perspective is very important, right, MG?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that gives a sense of, assurance, how we are trending in terms of, progress, and then also being able to visualize the dependencies, being able to kind of see how we are progressing along with all the items that needs to go along, and also kind of see if we are falling behind on anything in particular. That's definitely a feature that anybody who is kind of, working in any PPM tool or any project management
Yeah.
tool would love to kind of have in firsthand, at any cost. So
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah. So let me move on, and now let's actually jump into the demo. Give me 1 second while I switch my screen from the PPT to Jira.
before we get there, right, I think, we just ran
Mhm.
a quick poll in there. Maybe we'll just give a 30 seconds to see if how people are resonating to the top
Oh
features
yeah,
that we
definitely.
talked about, right? So I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of interest for the cost tracker.
Yeah,
That's my hunch.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, Vivek just asked this question, we can just answer that. Does the
Mhm.
report change based on the time tracking for an older tickets if a resource updated the time? How is that going to impact the real-time report? So it is dynamic. So that is the
It
reason
is.
we are not allowing the reports to be taken out of in time, rather use it as a live a tracker for you guys. So it always goes back and updates, and then the cost is real time.
Mhm.
It's pure math. The number of hours a particular role reports in Jira against a work item, multiplied by their cost. That's what you're going to get any given point in time. I hope that answers your question, Vivek.
Awesome. So let me now share my screen so that we look at how Waterfall for Jira looks. All right, so this is the landing page of Waterfall for Jira. Once you've opened the app, uh, go into the app. Yeah. So here is a test project that I have created. The same use case that we were talking about. This is mobile app development project. The team is working in Kanban. They've got issues in progress, backlog, done. How are they managing their work is what we are going to look at. So I go into my apps, uh, and the app opens up. This is the first tab, which the first use case that we saw, which was the project fields. So here, if I click on the configure button, I can add or remove any of these fields. I can move some of these things around, and I can just click on edit and update any of the specific fields that I might need to. Now, where, as I was showing in the demo, where this comes in handy, no data is good data unless you can report on it, right? So This is how you can report on it. So think of use cases like, for example, show me all the projects with budget greater than 2000 USD. Show me all the projects where requirement analysis is the phase. Show me all the projects where one specific person is your sponsor. Or show me all the issues or all the projects where the project status is at risk. Now, the PM can update their own specific project details. It's like a status report, basically, right? And at a management level or at a leadership level, they are able to pull at one click, look at the entire portfolio and see what's the project status looking like. Now, all of these fields inside all of these projects are access controlled. So you never have to worry about who has access to which data. At the end, we'll show you how we are managing that as well. But like, for example, if you are somebody who's working on, let's say, automation project, and you should not have access to payroll North America project. If you have access to payroll North America project, you should not have access to the budget field. That level of granularity is available into the project field section in the app as well. Moving on, the next feature as we were looking at was the cost tracker. So Ashu, what you were asking, this right now is how you can do it. Right now, looking at, let me go to project settings, and while that opens up, let me go into the people section. You'll say these are the people that I have in the section, and these are the roles that I have in the team. Those are the names that are showing up here. So if I have somebody, let's say, for example, in multiple roles, we have the ability to select them or deselect them and make sure that they can be in the correct role where they are supposed to be. You can define your uh, currency value here as well. You can add or remove more project teams. You can define what your start date and end date looks like. You can even add a GQL. Let's say, for example, you are only looking for issues inside cost for a specific component. You look for component is equal to XYZ, and you look at only the cost for that one specific component, depending on that project. And then this nifty level pie chart will actually break down and show you on the basis of details of the team as well. So the testing team, like for example, click on it, tells me, okay, Mahesh log this much, Sarika log this much, come back. These are the administrators of the project. So kind of like drilling down into the numbers and showing you a little more detail into what your project's costs look like. The third feature, as I mentioned, the earned value management here is where you can look at whether your project is going on track. The configure button lets you what is your planned start date, planned completion date, whether you're calculating your progress using status or due date, what is your done status. These are the aspects that define some of the formulas behind this. Using these formulas, we are actually calculating the issue completion percentage, which is then even being used to calculate the earned value. How you want to calculate or look at that, you can actually click here and go to our documentation and look at that as well. But if you want to reset this to something else, we are giving the ability to PM to override this number into something as well. But ideally hope that they don't need to. But if you have to, you can override this number for a specific view or report. And this actually will tell you whether once you have your earned value, you can figure out whether your cost variance is, whether you're behind schedule, SPI, CPI, these aspects you can get from this project as well. Looking at the next feature, which is the Gantt, which we were telling you about earlier, the more ambitious of all of this project, you might see there is another add-on that this UI makes you familiar with, right? So it's inspired from another product, inspired being the keyword. But if you look at it, what we are trying to do is put the phases on top and giving you the ability to have either you can use the field that comes along with the app, or you can use one of your own internal fields that you might have in your date, that as well. Here as well, as I was mentioning, you can directly create an issue. So let's say, for example, plan test. You can directly create that here, start adding what the dates for that plan looks like, and it starts showing up in the bar. You can add a milestone. You can directly create a milestone in the project. You can say, all right, there's a new milestone on the deploy phase, deploy live. You can define what date you want to add for that milestone, and you can create that milestone as well. Once you do that, you'll see that it quickly just reloads, and then it will add that milestone in that specific section as well. There are other features that we are adding, like right now you have the ability to add subtasks under that specific issue as well. There is the ability to add or edit or delete any of these issues as well. But as you see, as of now, this issue does not have an issue key because this has not been synced to Jira. All you have to do for that is click on sync, and this data will get created inside Jira, and your issue will, the planned test issue that we had just created, will now have an issue key as well. That means it's now been created in Jira. You can, just like for more ease of access, look at across weeks, months, quarters. We've also given the ability to have phase rolled up in terms of phase rolled up in terms of numbers. So you can see that the progress for that specific phase is actually showing up inside the tasks as well. So you can see this task is 40% complete, 43% complete. On the other hand, if I look at the tasks from the planning phase, if I go to the month's view in this, you can see there are two types of check marks that are being shown here. This specific check mark shows up when your original estimate and your time logged is exactly the same. But if it's a red check mark, it's kind of a legend. That means the task is complete, but you might have gone beyond, or you might have finished the work log, but your task is not marked as done in Jira as well. So this visualization kind of tells you if there is a specific aspect in your task management that you need to figure out or need to fix. You can add more fields in here as well in your system. You can always use the JQL, most importantly. Like, for example, if you want to filter and look at only the stories, or only the bugs, or only the tasks, or if, for example, a specific reporter gives you that ability to scroll down to that level, granular level, and have the ability to view data in that point of time as well. I'll take a pause here and quickly look at, because I see there are a couple of questions
Yeah,
showing up in
questions.
chat.
I think we'll
All right.
start with one that Prashant has asked, with regards to multi-project. I think, there's how can we manage a shared resource who will be working on multiple products?
I'm just going
By Prashant
through.
Kumar.
Oh yeah, found it. How can we manage a shared resource who will be working on multiple products? So Prashant, if your resource is working in one project or multiple projects, first let's identify that. Because if it is one project, then I'm assuming what you're trying to say in multiple products, you're separating it either using a custom field or using components when it comes to identifying the work for that specific product, or using issue type in one of these ways, right? Can you elaborate that? Once you elaborate that, I would then ask you that probably the best way to do that, or best way to manage that in terms of cost, is to use a JQL and define that. If it's multiple projects, then you might have to, for now, like the first version of cost tracker is again inside the project. So this project itself is the cost that you're looking at. But we are building a cost tracker which is across projects. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to compare costs between multiple projects in a single Jira dashboard as well.
Yeah, it looks like it's in a multiple project, so I think, we would have to wait for that
Yeah,
multi-project
yeah.
reporting.
The multiple project, it's in development right now. It's being prototyped. If you are interested to help us test out the prototype feature, we'll
Yeah.
be very happy to get your details from Garima and reach out to you, and you can probably help us prototype that out as well.
And I think, one of the fine print that we need to also call out is, this product is an MVP. So we would love to kind of, hear out any kind of a feedback or feature requests,
Oh yeah.
that you have, that you're seeing, is missing here that could help, would be greatly appreciated. So we will share a link to kind of, add all of these features. I mean, we are going to collect everything from the chat and the questions,
Mhm.
obviously, but at the same time, we will also have a link shared at the end of the webinar for you to put in a feature request, and then we can probably, work and collaborate with you to test that feature once it's ready.
Yep, 100%. Just on that line, like for example, Prashant, you mentioned how is change management handled when billing is based on cost per resource, and how is change management handled in general? So we are looking at a way in which we can baseline a specific cost. We are prototyping that as MG mentioned, this is the MVP. We wanted to get it out so that we can get questions like this, right? Feedback like this. We are working on a way in which you can baseline a specific cost or a specific budget once entered, and any change in that is countered as change management.
There's also one
Scrolling,
question
yeah,
from
go ahead, MJ.
there's one question from Jairam. Now we transit to story points in the name of agility. Does this also translate points to hours if we provide the metrics of conversion?
As
Okay.
of now, it looks at work log. Uh, But that's a very good and a very unique perspective. If you are having people log time in story points, maybe story points isn't the number for you. But what we can do is have an ability to define what your logged field is. So, like for example, if you remember how estimates are captured inside a Kanban board or a Scrum board, you can define what your estimates are, whether it's work log or a Scrum or story points. We can give that flexibility. As of now, we've not thought about it. That's a brilliant input that you gave us. We can
That's
definitely
always
think more about it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's always a conundrum, right? So when you're in, an agile team, it's always a question of, how do you define, how do you, weigh a particular story, like, how do you define a story points for those things? It's always particularly for people who are transitioning or, just adopting to the agility as a way of doing things. That's always a huge question mark. What am I estimating it right? Is the t-shirt sizing right, or is it the story point added to a effort, or a particular backlog item, is it right? It's a obvious, that's the reason why it's an iterative process. But yeah, that's a good one. We can see if you can define a metrics that says, okay, fine, if I am defining my story to be 3 points, then this is the equivalence of it in terms of
yeah.
the other values, like in terms of the hours or the cost. If you can define a story point cost as a unit, in some way, we can think of it. I think, that's a good perspective. We can ponder upon that to see, how
Oh
that
yeah,
works.
definitely. We're building an add-on called Waterfall for Jira, but we are building it iteratively. So this
Good.
actually fits perfectly into what we were trying to say. We ourselves work in that hybrid model. So one thing that we've not covered specifically in the PPT intentionally is because it's not that big yet, but we're very like happy about this one feature as well. We've we've got a small little report section in here as well. So while we were building the cost tracker and everything, we realized there are ways in which we could visually represent the data that we were collecting. So like, for example, if you see, we've got a time log by role report in here as well. Now, this report section is definitely something that we want to explore more. We want to have more project management reports in here. And the next time we have this demo, we'll have much more gadgets in here. As of now, we have two gadgets that are readily available out of the box. One of them lets you uh, create your time log by role, the same data that you were seeing in cost tracker. Here you can represent it. You can, like, if you've seen more apps in the marketplace, it gives you the ability to custom change some of the colors. You can define a start date and an end date for that specific uh, time log data that you're pulling. You can rename the gadget to something else as well. And after you've done all of this, you can export this to a PDF or a PNG as well. The same data is being represented in a trend manner. So like right now we're doing time trend, but we are also building a cost trend in here as well. So that, for example, you'll be able to visualize the same data at like looking at what week, how much time was being logged in your project. So rather than going into Jira and then looking at export of an Excel or a time log report, or again, looking at other add-ons in the marketplace which give you some of these reports. Our whole goal is for project managers to use one app, reduce the cost, and have at least the basic functionalities that you might need out of the box. Uh, to have that data. So that's what we're doing. One thing that I definitely want to call out here before we open it up for more questions is we understand that a lot of teams might use some other data apps for logging time as well. And that's the reason we actually have an integration specifically available in our app for Tempo. So if you're logging time in Tempo, you can use the Tempo API integration, put that API token here, and your app will pull data from both Tempo and Jira. So like, for example, if you have one project which uses Tempo and might have another project which does not, you don't have to worry about it. Our app takes care of the Tempo API. There is an integration. So even if your team members are logging time using Tempo cost track, Tempo timesheet, you are able to pull that data in here, in your cost tracker, in your earned value management, and
Yeah.
even in your report section in the Jira as well.
And eventually we'll also add more to this, but we know that, Tempo is
Yes.
the most popular and we use it
Yeah.
internally. We've been using it for ages now. So we know that, 8 out of 10 people are using anything outside of the regular time management, then Tempo it is. So, that's the reason that
Mhm.
has been our first choice. But now at least there are timesheets, the other apps, there are multiple marketplace apps. So we'd love to kind of
Mhm.
hear if we want to see any more integrations, we'd be more than happy to incorporate that in the roadmap.
Yeah. And this actually, if you've noticed, this is the site admin section of the app. This is where you can define the Tempo API integration. This is where you can manage your users as well. So when you're adding a specific user, you can define that specific project that you want to give them access to. You can define which feature of the app you want to give them access to, and you can define which specific field they should have access to. So to that level of granularity, we planned for it. And if you're a fan like me of the project level fields, we also wanted to have permissions on top of that. So like, for example, if I don't have access to the budget field here, or if like in the user section, then my report will not show me budget field as well. Just like that, this is where basically you can create more fields. So we understand these might not be the only project fields that you need. You might need your own project or instance specific fields. Your site admin can create multiple type of fields, text input, number pickers, multi-selects. This price is the currency converter feature that we have. So you can use this for any cost related aspects. User picker status, generic status being the red, amber, green colors that you can default and define, and in that manner have more fields in your project fields as well. With that, I think 10 minutes in, I'll stop my sharing, and then I think we should focus more on Q&As and chat.
Yeah, I think there are a few questions that are yet to be answered. So let's go back to the Q&A. Anybody who's just putting the questions in the chat, it would be better to kind of put it in a Q&A so that it's trackable and it's easy. So we'll start with the question from Jairam. I think we addressed that point of conversion
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, I think definitely I think we'll look at that as a prospect feature, right? So there's one from John. You have different permissions for setting up the Gantt and approving the changes.
So as of now, setting and approving both are the same in terms of the Gantt, but we are digging deeper into the permissions of who can edit the Gantt and who can approve a Gantt as well. So like, for example, when you saw the sync feature, uh, I'll just say the name. So just like advanced roadmaps has the ability to review the changes, we are adding that review section in, and the ability for the project manager to define who are the people who can review changes. While some people can add the aspects, review can be owned by some people and approved, and then that data can be created. So that's in progress, John.
Yeah.
Nishant says, being in agile management and don't do project management, but how can we connect aspect like process improvement, blocker resolution to this product? That's a very interesting take, Nishant. Uh, as of now, process, see, if you ask the agilist inside me, it would say process has always been in fight with the tools, right? So barely it talks on the same lines. And in my own experience, what I've seen is teams focus on one and hope for the other, right? So teams go all in on process and hope that tools will look good, or go all in on tools and hope the process is all right. But I think it's more of how you are rolling out any one of it. So if you are rolling out the process, you need to take care how your tools are talking in the same language what your processes are saying. And this goes beyond Jira and beyond Waterfall for Jira or any other app in the marketplace. Like if you have time, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I would definitely want to talk more about this specific aspect. We want to include some of those aspects of process improvements, but it's just very niche to first of all target how can process improvement be targeted using a tool itself, right? So as of now, we don't have process improvement. As of now, we are more focused towards visualization and focused towards having the ability for PMs to have more control on the apps that they have to use to get the data that they desire. But definitely looking forward to that.
There's one
And
question from
yeah.
Ashu. Does project sponsor be a user on Jira? Is it mandatory? It is for now.
As of now, it is a user picker field. So it has to be a user, but you don't have to create a user picker field called sponsor. Your site admin can create a text or an email field, which can be the project sponsor, which you can use.
Yes, yeah. I think, for a project sponsor, a single Jira license should be given. That's it.
Yeah, you can just have a generic sponsor at the rate
Yeah.
jira.com.
All right. So, okay. So we answered Prashant's question with regards to the multi-project, multi-role one. So, okay, Vivek has like a little ambitious if AI for JQuel will be featured soon.
Sorry, what was the question, Vivek? Let me scroll up.
AI for JQuel, the Atlassian's
Mhm.
capability. So the question is, we're expecting that to be added as a capability on our app as well, like be able to use AI. There's a JQuel, right? So yeah,
So as of now, what we are doing is we are using the JQL, component from Jira, which you can use to give information to the app. I understand, Vivek, what your question might be. How do we just write projects in Dash component in text as well? As of now, Atlassian has not opened those components for any marketplace players. We can build custom something like this, but we know Atlassian is going to open that. So we are going to wait for that ability. Once that is open, we are going to incorporate those into our app as well.
yeah, yeah. We'll consume anything that's coming that's being opened up
Yeah.
through the marketplace partners. Yeah, we'll love to kind of ask those kind of a questions for sure, like how expensive
Oh,
might
yeah.
be, right? So yeah, that kind
So
of a
for now, what you can do is define your sprint and as the timeline and just look at the cost.
yep, yep. Is there a way to, bulk update dates against issues and map to a phase? Currently not, but that's a great feature to have.
Sorry, what's the question?
Is there a way we can bulk update dates against
Mhm.
issues and map to phases? Can we map sprints to the phases and eventually have it mapped to the milestones?
So sprints as of now cannot be mapped to the phases because phases are mapped to issues. So those issues can be epics, your subtasks, your normal stories, tasks in that manner. That's the relationship. If those stories are part of a sprint, they are indirectly tagged as well. So like, for example, you can have like a column field in, let's say, for example, in the Gantt itself, where you can show the sprint in there as well. Uh, if you have a specific requirement, please hit up. Let me actually share my screen again, and because I think we are very near to the total amount of time that we had. Not here. There you go. Can you guys see my screen? Right. So this is the email address. If you have any specific question, please hit up as wfj@trundle.com. You'll be able to reach the development team, and we'd be very happy to take feature requests. As MJ mentioned, this is an MVP. We've just rolled this out. We are very We are very hopeful on what this can do for project managers. Being a PM myself, I want this to be something that can help reduce costs. We are very open to feature requests. We are very open to feedbacks. We are very open to having, people test out the app, have discounts for the app, have extended trials, even longer term, no cost prototypes for you to play around and give us feedback. So just hit up at this email. Garima might reach out to you afterwards as a follow up as well. But if you don't have any question, this is basically what we wanted to cover. This is a quick recap of what the app does. We've got the project level fields, the cost tracker, the Gantt view, the EVM, and the reports. And if any of these fields interest you, please install the app from the marketplace. We are on the Atlassian marketplace right now. The app is built on Forge, and we are working through getting the bug bounty and the app security badge on the app as well, so that will show our dedication towards the marketplace as well. With 1 minute left to go, I stop my screen sharing, and MG, unless you have anything, we hand it over to Garima back.
No, I think we kind of covered what we wanted to really convey. So we are looking forward to have you guys try the app, and any feature definitely, it's great idea. If you think that it's missing, feel free to just throw it at us, and then we can bounce off those ideas, and then we can invite you to have a collaborative sessions with us as we kind of develop those capabilities and have you be our beta tester as well. So we can roll it out to you exclusively on some of those things.
Awesome. All right, Garima, any closing thoughts, comments?
Thank you everyone for joining. Please keep an eye out for emails regarding the follow-up. So if you have any questions, you can directly mail to the email ID that was mentioned, or I've just posted a link which will take you to the Waterfall for Jira page on trundle.com. I'll linking it again. You can directly go to that web page and click on get the app, or you can just contact us through the web page.